If you enjoy this content, please take a moment to rate and review it. Your feedback will greatly impact our ability to reach more people. Thank you. All right. Lots going on in the world, Vic.
Yeah. Kind of a crazy time.
Yeah. Stock market. What's your read of it?
I'm trying not to look at it for the next couple months. I think it's going to be incredibly volatile. Up, down, probably more down than up is my guess until at least the summertime.
Yeah.
But I think any day with news out of DC or something happening could pop up and then comes down again. So
yeah. It feels like a moment to just kind of like hold your nose, turn away, and focus on the real world.
Yeah.
Real work. For sure. I had a good time in Miami this weekend.
Oh, yeah. How was Miami? I forgot about that. How was South Beach?
It was great. It was great.
Yeah.
It was the weekend before spring break, so it wasn't totally insane.
Yeah, you don't want to be there during the heat of spring break.
I'm too old for that, man.
Yeah.
So, no, it was the weather was fantastic. And then came back to great weather here in Nashville, too. So that was
beautiful.
It's just been a nice 7-day stretch. And I don't know, I'm just kind of feeling like coming out of a hard season, honestly, and feeling like I have a little bit more space to breathe and think. And so generally I'm feeling pretty positive, even though I know the world is, especially the finance world is kind of upside down. But personally, I feel pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I read both right and left publications and watch both right and left TV news. And so it's a bipolar world. I mean, I think I'm probably one of the few people in the world that watches both. And it's crazy just to think that like the storylines and the positioning are almost exact opposite.
Yeah. Which is, you're better than me. This is why I really have opted out.
Altogether.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on, I'm on a variety of different highly curated newsletters.
Yeah.
And that are like really thoughtful, and I wouldn't necessarily
more long form
analysis. So newsletters, podcasts.
Yeah.
I pretty much have abandoned television at this point. I just think it's just honestly like a subpar format.
Yeah.
For everything we've now got on the internet, TV it's just not as good.
Yeah.
And then I'm still on X, which is a necessary evil. It's the only place to kind of stay up to speed on AI and crypto stuff. And also, I think there is a heavy dose, especially if you're talking about international news. Like, if you've curated your lists, you really can get great international news there.
Do you use the Pro dashboard?
I do.
That's the best thing about X.
Yeah,
because I have it all queued up with different lists and different stuff.
I've got a list called G20, and I went and I got the leader of every G20 country.
Oh, interesting.
And then if the leader doesn't have an accment, I went and got the foreign ministry's account and put it in there. Yeah. So I'll share that list with you.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's helpful, man. Because we the American narrative, we just get so bogged down in it, and then you like go check the G20, and you're like, oh man, there's a whole big world out there doing a whole bunch of other stuff, and that's it's actually refreshing.
Yeah.
To know the whole world is not totally consumed with what we're doing over here.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got a nice show of stuff to talk about. So
probably
about time for us to dig in. So breaking news, which by the time you listen to this will not be, but literally just hit the wire.
Yeah.
The Democrats have cleared the way for the GOP bill ending the threat of the shutdown.
Yeah, this is a huge concern lifted. I mean, there's all this, every few years, there's this shutdown dynamic that I think I'm tired of. I think everyone's tired of. So I'm happy that they have just put it to bed. And importantly, we'll cover it in the show, that there's some important healthcare things that we needed to get included in the continuing resolution, which got included, or I think it hasn't totally passed yet, but they're planning to do it tomorrow.
So let's rehash the jobs thing. Last week we covered the ADP, and it showed everything being down. BLS came out, and the number was 151,000 jobs last month. So missed, but not kind of the miss that was signaled by ADP, right?
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I feared after ADP, but it wasn't super strong either. So
no,
it missed expectations, and then some of the down, no, not the headline thing, like hours worked and, the participation rate, which is who's even looking for jobs. Those things moved in not great direction. So it's definitely a deteriorating job market, but not as bad as I feared.
Yeah. So, I mean, just something to watch. I don't think that it's definitive in any way about, where we're headed from a job market perspective, right? All right. So now let's start a little bit of just discussion on the analysis that's out there around Trump and the markets. So the headline of this New York Times story is "An Untradable Market, Trump sows profound uncertainty for stocks." The consistency and the commitment to tariffs, just the market's uncertainty about how that will actually play out, is that a winning strategy or not, is driving incredible volatility in the markets and driving up the 10-year bond yield.
Yeah. I don't know if the 10-year bond yield is up. It might be up today.
It's up today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that Trump supporters and Trump himself will say, trust me, I will negotiate a deal through all of this craziness and it'll be good in the end. But that uncertainty and lack of at least transparency into what the plan is there a plan other than I'm going to try to reset the tariff structure so that the U.S. pays a lot less? Markets are I think they don't like that uncertainty and the whipsaw around where I can't even keep straight of it. It's 20%, then it's 200%, then it's reciprocal, and it seems to change day to day.
Yeah. Well, it's real time tit for tat. It's basically like it's jockeying and it's trying to assert global dominance, in terms of making sure the world understands the leverage that America has by way of its economy and military.
And we have a lot of leverage, but
sure,
whether Trump can use that in a way that is positive for the economy and then the stock market is unclear.
Yeah, totally. So
yeah, I think it's an untradeable market. It's hard. I mean, Trump can say one thing at 10 and another thing at 11 in the morning, and the market's totally different.
Yeah. So it's I've never heard the term untradeable before, but he is the driving force, and sort of his posts on Truth Social, can immediately move the market. Scott Bessent, the United States Treasury Secretary, has given his first long-form interview / sort of presentation to CNBC. It's a 20-minute discussion, so we'll include the link in the show notes, and we will not play all 20 minutes now. But a couple of sort of highlight words. Detox is kind of the one that I think everyone has latched onto. This is his reference to the American economy and its dependence on government spending. And that government spending, kind of propping up the economy. And look, I mean, I think you can look over the last 3 years at some of those great GDP, numbers that we turned in. And when you crack it open, you say, okay, how much of that was due to government spending? It was a significant portion. And so if your commitment is to decrease government spending such that you will improve our standing with regard to the deficit, then detox might not be a terrible way to sort of frame what we were previously doing, being drunk or addicted to government spending.
I think Scott Bessent has a lot of experience. He's been a hedge fund trader. He's been in bond markets. He's a market participant who now has come into government office. So he knows the markets better than I know them. But I think detox can take a while. And so the fact that he's positioning it as detox, I think, is a pretty clear statement. And he says in the interview that Wall Street has made, significant returns over the last 2 years, and they may not do that well this year. Something that may be the exact quote, but something like that. And that he and the Trump administration are really thinking more longer term and more focused on Main Street and interest rates, which I think is code for you should expect it to be at least very bumpy and volatile in equity markets.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think that means it's going to be, they're not worried about equity markets, I don't think. They're trying to do whatever they're trying to do, but it's, in Trump's first administration, I felt like, and I think a lot of people felt like, at the end of the day, he's going to care about where the S&P 500 is, maybe not every day, but at the end of a month or about a quarter. And Bessent and several of the Trump cabinet are going at lengths to say that they're not focused on that now.
You know,
I don't know if that's good or bad, but it just is.
Yeah, no, I actually wasn't going to weigh in from a good or bad perspective. I was just going to say that through the pandemic, you remember sort of the rise of Ray Dalio, not as an investor, but as a prognosticator around kind of this very topic, right? You know, the large debt and credit cycles that we get into around the world. The smaller cycles and then the larger cycles that we get into.
He has a new thing now that's really scary.
Yeah, and how countries go broke.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, it feels to me like Bessent is sort of speaking from the Dalio, you know, scriptures a little bit. That he's basically saying, like, listen, we're at the head, we're at the tip of the spear of the next big cycle. And really serious stuff has to happen to avoid a collapse, quite frankly, you know, and that's how I internalized it. But of course, I've been, you know, listening to and reading and watching the Dalio stuff for 5 years now, right? So and listening to Friedberg on All In, sort of like hammer this home all the time, you know. And so I guess to some degree, the fact that this is happening for me, and I'm sure for you too, because you've also been, you know, consuming a lot of that content. Like, it's not that out of left field, you know, to hear it. It's awesome in the true sense of the word to watch it happening in real time. It's like now it's not like this thing in theory where we're looking at a little cartoon explaiing how the world economy works, and now we're like literally in the middle of it and seeing the VIX kind of consistently being above 25%. It's like, wow, you know, here we are. But yeah, look, I mean, I think regardless of what party was in place, any party that decided it was going to be the one that in its administration was going to take on this challenge, these would be the talking points. You know, I'm trying to sort of departisanize it a little bit and say whoever was going to actually take on the big world debt cycle challenge would be using words like detox. Yes. And the U.S. Treasury has to refinance $4 trillion in the second quarter. The second quarter. I mean, like, it's just I can't even wrap my head around that, man. I mean, it's 4,000 billion. I still can't even fully comprehend that. He's got to do that in 90 days, April 1st through June 30th. So it's not surprising they want the interest rates down, like save a ton of money. Yes. And then I agree with you that any president trying to correct our debt issues and our spending issues has to attack the entitlements and has to attack defense. And I'm not really a fan of Trump's style, but ending the war in Ukraine, if he can end the war in Ukraine, but pulling our support out, there's a lot of Republican politicians that would not be able to do that. No way. Because the defense industry is a big Republican supporter. Hold on. Yes. And I would say that's more of like a Republican class thing. I mean, I would say when you get into the base of the Republican Party, I think a whole bunch of people were anti-Putin and pro-Ukraine. Yeah. There were a lot of Ukraine flags flying around in Florida when I was down there to vacation, and those people are Trump voters. Yes. Okay. So I think it's more just like Trump has an ability to buck Republican norms and pull the party along with him it's a one of one.
Yeah.
It's a one of one, his ability to do that.
Yeah. And so if we have to go through even, say, a year of detox, if we cut the defense spending, and we're going to talk about healthcare, they're coming after a bunch of healthcare things, which is going to be hard on our business and our listeners. But I think it's not fair to say you should cut every other department and not what I care about. So we need to cut all government spending.
Yeah, and you have to, like, how can you not look at the biggest line item?
Right,
like
right.
That part is just like, that's unserious.
Yeah. So if they can achieve that, it'll be great for U.S. markets. Mm-hmm. It'll be great for the interest rates. It'll be great for equity markets next year. Maybe not this year. Maybe late this year. I'm hoping the Trump administration is successful at all these things, but they're trying to do a lot in a very short amount of time.
Agree. So inflation actually eased up a little bit, which we're going to have to watch this carefully. I don't think we have anything conclusive at the moment. The tariff things are still largely threats, and they haven't actually come in place. Tariffs should be inflationary in many, many ways. Until they're not, but that's a period of time to reshore manufacturing and get our own internal supply chains to the place where things are, as efficient, leveraging AI and robotics and blah, blah, blah. That's 24 months or something like that. So moving forward with the tariffs should in fact be inflationary. And we were discussing it on the Jumpstart Insight call earlier today with Emily.
Oh,
in the Foundry. One of the Foundry founders asked the question of, could we be headed into stagflation, right? Because Trump will not rule out a recession.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's moving full on with tariffs. And it's like, you could have the intersection of, inflation plus a recession. And that's, that's really hard, right? So I'm happy to see that it cooled in February. It was lower than expected, but watch this space. To me, this does not feel conclusive at all.
Yeah, I feel much better about inflation than you do. I think that tariffs are inflationary, period. But the amount of job cuts that DOGE is bringing to the federal government
is deflationary.
And the cuts in spending is deflationary. So
yes.
I think if we get a recession, it'll be because all of those people lost their jobs. They stopped spending.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we would get stagflation. I think there's a chance that we have very little inflation and a recession. And then there's a chance that somehow these tactics magically work out and there's better trade and growth. And then we would have to be worried about inflation again in the back half of the year. But I don't know. I think that there's so much cost cutting and job losses that I'm expecting in the next few months that I'm not so worried about inflation because of that. But that could be wrong.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. All right, moving into VC. Virtual musculoskeletal care provider Vori Health nabs $53 million. This is from Fierce Healthcare. This is a Series B funding round to build out its physician-led solution for musculoskeletal care. The round was led by NEA, backed by Alicorp, Intermountain Health, Intermountain Ventures, Echo Health Ventures, Max Ventures. That's a good group. It's a good group around the table. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good company, good group. Interesting space. We'll have another story in a minute, but this musculoskeletal rehab, orthopedic space is hot this week. A lot going on.
All right, next story. This is on Axios. Motivity gets $27 million from Five Elms for ABA software.
Yeah, ABA is another market that is every couple weeks there's something there. It's a big problem. I don't know how many technologies we need, but
yeah, I actually knew this company and because Teamwork was in conversations with them, but I actually need to talk to Teamwork because that's really so the space is largely controlled by a company called Central Reach. They're like the main player in the ABA space from the technology side. From a EMR and just general case management perspective. So Motivity is I think competitive with with Central Reach.
Okay.
So, you know,
And they're in Hawaii, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
you don't see a lot of companies in Hawaii.
No, you don't. So this will be something for me to follow up on. But congrats to them. Let's see what's next. Hinge Health. Oh, that's a big one. Hinge Health files to go public. So Hinge Health has had, you know, a lot of really good positive press. I don't know, they're privately held, so I don't know that I know the kind of revenue.
Right.
But they had, you know, successful, you know, funding rounds, and now they're signaling a potential IPO, which is that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I don't know much detail about them, but I'm a cheerleader for it.
Yeah. Again, it's another company in the MSK space. Yeah. But they're definitely a leader, you know, for sure. And they're in the Defined Ventures portfolio.
Yeah.
So that's a strong outcome for them. All right. And this is from Wall Street Journal Pro Private Equity. Venture investors hope for an IPO recovery in 2025. Now it's on hold. Yes, that is exactly right. You know, I think generally speaking, folks in the VC space and even private equity were really hopeful that, you know, a Trump win would result in regulatory environment changes, which it is going to, right? That would relax the M&A market, and that would create more liquidity and get more capital back in the hands of LPs to allow more funds to be raised and more companies to be invested in. Because right now we have definitely been on a, you know, very slow drip as it pertains to exits and liquidity, no question. And you know, we started this show talking about the craziness of the stock market, and crazy stock market is not great for IPOs. And so, yeah, you know, I think we are into our third real year of private market headwinds. And I don't know how you go through 3 straight years without some form of industry contraction, right? Like everybody can't make it for 3 years of headwinds.
No, I mean, so I talked about this. I had Dave Lambert on as a guest a couple weeks ago. I think it posted last week, maybe.
Yeah, it's live.
But we talked about this issue. He thinks over half of VC firms are going to go out of business in the next, I think he said 24 months. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think that's probably roughly right.
I think that's roughly right.
I personally wrote a letter at the end of the year to my LPs, and then I just wrote another letter to LPs and other folks on Monday. And it's really interesting. My point of view has changed dramatically. And I can see it because I wrote it in the letter.
Yeah.
At the end of the year.
Hold on, your point of view since the letter?
Well, I wrote a letter on January 1st.
Okay.
And then I wrote another letter Monday. So, you know, mid-March.
Okay. Yeah. So 75 days.
Yeah, 75 days. I think over the holidays, I made the error that Trump's new administration would be very similar to his first one. And I believed that. And I wrote about what you're talking about, that the M&A markets, there wouldn't be as much regulation, and the equity markets would be positive because Trump is a, you know, pro-business kind of president. And in 75 days, I've changed my opinion. I think it is because Trump was pretty quiet after the election before inauguration.
Yeah.
And then he came out with this something like 100 executive orders all queued up. I think almost like in football where you script the first 20 plays. I think he had 30 days of scripted shock and awe stuff.
Yeah.
And he didn't talk much about it before then because it ruins the shock and awe. So that's my excuse for why I didn't know. I think that's partially true, at least. But now we know, and it's very different. And so this story and my new letter is not, I mean, we'll navigate what we can navigate, but there's not a lot of frothiness that I see, not huge exits coming.
Yeah. As you know, because you're an LP in the Nova Fund, I waited.
Yeah, right, exactly. You didn't push it out because you're smarter than I am.
I waited until March to send my end of 2024 letter. And it just gave me an opportunity to digest all the stuff that was going
smarter.
on.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm smarter, but I had the benefit of being late. So, all right. So the House votes to extend telehealth for 6 months, sending the funding bill to the Senate. So this is just kind of a little bit of a behind the curtain on what the Democrats just sort of approved, which is we're going to get more telehealth for 6 months. I mean, that's not what the telehealth industry wants. Everyone's looking for more. I wouldn't consider myself fundamentally part of telehealth, but telehealth's part of digital health and healthcare innovation. And we just need this to kind of be figured out. Now, I understand 6 months is appropriate because you need to give RFK some time to work with everybody and kind of figure out
it just got pulled into the continuing resolution.
Exactly. But like we need to get to a point where we're no longer talking about extending some emergency, trigger and like getting into like what is going to be the steady state of telehealth. Come on, it's 2025. Like we're all doing meetings on Zoom all the time. Yeah. Everyone's already been using telehealth.
I think doctors, payers, patients, employers, I think everyone believes that telehealth as a way to deliver care, not the only way, but one of the ways to deliver care is a good thing. How we reimburse for it is unknown right now. Like for a long time, since it got introduced, it's been the same rates. I don't know if that's fair or not. I mean, it's not the exact same cost, but it's a lot of the same cost. So yes, more visibility would be good, but at least 6 months. It was going to end on March 15th. So it's good that it got extended.
Yeah. CMMI to cut participation in payment models estimates $750 million in savings. No real surprise here.
This was telegraphed, but it's sad to see it go.
I mean, sad to see it go if it was very effective. I mean, it was certainly nice to have an entity with authority to drive innovative models, but I think the assessment is in and it hasn't been tremendously successful, right? So
I like selling into it, and my portfolio companies benefited, but it wasn't successful. They didn't have enough or very many successes.
No. Provider revenues to drop $80 billion in 2026 if cuts drive states from Medicaid expansion. Analysis finds. So this to me is the current really big story in healthcare. There's a couple of other ones, but just when we think about the hospital space, these Medicaid supplemental payments have really been material, and in particular over the last 5 years.
Yeah, they've grown. I mean, they're much more material, even to the
for-profits, even the big for-profits. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Which has been a little bit of a surprise for me because I just drew a straight line to the nonprofits because of their payer mix.
Right.
And I've heard anecdotal stories, but then, you like Emily was saying, like Tennessee is like in the top 3 or top 5 states for supplemental payments. And I was like, wow, that just, I mean, on one hand, I get it. We've never had Medicaid expansion, right? So on that hand, like I get it. Yeah. It was a way to sort of drive, greater adoption of Medicaid, but she was even saying stuff like, for some of these for-profits that the Medicaid, volume didn't necessarily increase anywhere near what the revenue increased for.
Right. Yeah, because the supplemental payments are not tied to particular procedures or patient volume.
No.
There's some, it's different state by state, and it's very opaque, but there is like a number of patients served and how the money gets allocated or something like that, but it's not tied to how many patients they have.
Yeah. So, really, this is going to be a really big deal because between what Trump has within his capacity as the head of the executive branch, plus what Congress is seeking to cut out of the budget, over $800 billion, what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Right. Supplemental payments is, number 1 or number 2. It's supplemental payments and then, the family issue with the ACA. Right. Those are kind of the two big buckets that you can go after. I don't see a way supplemental payments makes it through.
I mean,
it's not
in the form it is right now.
It's not core to the Medicaid program, right?
It's not core, and I believe it was created because there are places in this country where the health systems will have trouble staying open without supplemental payments.
Oh, well, that's why.
That's why it was created.
That's why this is such a ridiculous.
And that issue
deal.
is still. We still have that issue.
We're going to talk about it in a couple of stories.
Yeah, right.
So that's what I'm saying. Like we have been talking for a long time about the number of hospitals, shrinking dramatically, and we've certainly seen cracks and shutdowns and bankruptcies and all sorts of like really ugly things, but we haven't seen like the true culling, right? And I think the supplemental payment thing has been a huge reason why we have not seen the culling yet. And it feels like it's upon us, right? And it's going to be very, very serious. Very serious. Access to care, employment, GDP, like it's going to be significant. So
yeah.
Is Trump taking a liquidationist approach to the economy? What's this about?
It's not the term I would have used. What I would have said to you is that he's approaching it like a turnaround venture guy is doing it. Come in and just cut everything you can cut and figure out how to right the ship. And that's certainly what Elon and DOGE are doing.
Sure.
So I don't know. I mean, I think it is. It's a topic for discussion. Like, is that how we should cut overhead in the government? Is that the right approach? But that is not what anyone's used to. So I wouldn't use the term liquidationist.
Yeah,
that's kind of a funny term that I don't think anyone else uses, really.
Yeah, I'd actually never heard that term.
I don't think that's not the term I would have used.
Yeah, okay. Maybe we shouldn't have included that story. Let's get to real stories. CMS scraps contracts to upgrade online Medicare system and hands over control to DOGE, the agency says. That's not a small deal.
Yeah, so go down a little bit. Medicare hired some group, I can't think of the name right now, to upgrade their systems.
Okay, CGI Federal.
Yeah, and they've spent 9 years and $200 million, and they haven't delivered anything. And so I'm fine with that. Like, let's cut them.
14 missed deadlines, 0 usable output was produced.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And hold on, and CMS said this, not DOGE, right?
I think those are facts. I mean, yes.
But I just to be clear, like, it means something different to me if CMS says it than if DOGE says it. I hate to say that, but it does. So CMS was who said
yes.
this.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then they have, I guess, hired DOGE to fix this system for them. That part I was surprised about it. I don't know if that really makes sense, but that's what supposedly they're doing.
I mean, all bets are off on this stuff. I mean, these are the kinds of things I don't even spend time trying to wrap my head around, because
whoever that vendor was is terrible.
Yeah, and also like this, they're just going to do it. Like, like Trump will give DOGE whatever business he wants to give DOGE. I mean, it's just not worth getting upset over. Right? So like, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it makes sense to have the auditor cost-cutting control body then pick up the work on the other side, just as a matter of design. But you're right. No one cares what I think. Trump's going to do what he wants.
Yeah, he's going to do what he wants. All right. So this Blue Cross antitrust deal, we've gotten inbound emails about it, not from the show. A lot of people are thinking about this and talking about this. Why do you think this is such a big deal? I think people are surprised that several health systems have rejected the deal and stepped away and said they'll sort of take their chances and maybe direct legal action.
My personal opinion is that Blue Cross has colluded to protect their large employers in each state for decades. I think that's pretty well established.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think where there's a difference of opinion is that a lot of people related to Blue Cross groups feel like they have great public opinion and goodwill, and they do wonderful things in the community.
Sure.
I really like the Blue Cross people I know that work in Tennessee, but I don't know that they have more goodwill than the health systems. And so my view is that the health systems are feeling like the facts are on our side, and we have as much of a patient-facing brand as Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they should pay more. The damages are much more than $3 billion. And I don't know who's right, but I think there's a lot to argue that the health systems can sort of put a lot of evidence out there.
Sure.
Like, would a jury award more or less? I think they're willing to take their chances.
I mean,
they also are needing money, so it's another like.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. They are needing money. I mean, I don't know why 2.8 billion doesn't sound like that big a number to me. I mean, because it's across the whole association, right? So everyone's probably got to kick in
for a long time. I mean, for I don't know how many years. I mean, Blue Cross was started in 1920s.
Yeah.
So, it's.
I mean, that's probably why I won't die, because people just kind of feel like that number is just
not enough,
not sufficient, right? All right, Wall Street Journal. The hologram doctor will see you now. A Tennessee cancer clinic is beaming doctors out to rural areas, a new model of telehealth that goes beyond clunky video conferencing. So, yes, finally, the future is here. There's a picture here of a cancer patient and her husband at a West Cancer Center and Research Institute clinic in Corinth, Mississippi, talking with their doctor. And the doctor is beamed in, and it's a beautiful sort of image. It's a hologramic image, you know?
Yeah, and if you squint, it looks like he's sitting there in the room with you.
Yeah. It looks great. And that's an actual photo of the experience that they're having. So, I mean, this to me is exact. You know, you overlay all the scary things from supplemental payments and other, you know, cuts that the federal government's going to make that are certainly going to close down many points of care for people in rural communities. And then you overlay the telehealth thing, and it's kind of like, you've got to figure out how to extend the telehealth thing permanently. It's, you know, it just would be cruel to not do that, you know, in the wake of the economic, you know, and access to care destruction that is at this point seemingly inevitable. I don't see a real way around it.
Yeah. I mean, one version of the future is a bunch of health systems in smaller cities or rural areas cannot continue to support their overhead.
Mm-hmm.
So they turn into much smaller footprints with telehealth and with holograms and with enough technology to still care for those patients.
Yeah.
That's one version that would be plausible. There's a lot of employees in those small towns that work at the health systems that doesn't really solve for, but maybe that's not a public health issue. That's just that's an economy issue.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it's good that health systems are continuing to push forward, making it more realistic, making it, you know, there's a lot of empathy, especially in cancer care, where you want to be able to have facial expressions and maybe even body language that is hard on Zoom. I think a hologram that looks realistic, where you can get more of that in-person experience, is probably useful.
Mm-hmm. Landmark Holdings of Florida files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. I hadn't heard of Landmark Holdings before this story, but it caught my attention because it's in modern healthcare, and it's about a health system, and it's a bankruptcy. So, you know.
Yeah, there's a couple stories that are kind of rough in a row here, but Landmark has 5 or 6 hospitals in kind of Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. I don't know exactly where they are. I think they're probably in smallish cities. But yeah, they're Chapter 11.
Yeah. Not much more to say other than I think we'll be seeing more headlines like this.
Yeah. This show we have some more.
Yeah. So Prospect Medical's Pennsylvania hospitals at risk of closure. This is another one in Modern
Another
Healthcare.
one. Yep. Yeah. So they haven't filed yet, but they have no long-term solution. Is what they said in court.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of these. So
yeah, and just a quote from the article here, where different doctors at Treasury Health said that the closure will devastate not only our residents but also the thousands of employees and patients who rely on this network for their well-being. That was written to the bankruptcy judge, and
yeah.
you know, that's talking about, you know, one facility,
right,
and so, you know, you just got to start multiplying that. I think up to 1,000, quite frankly, you know.
Yeah,
because that's the kind of scale of closure we could experience. Certainly could experience. All right, another rough story. Wall Street Journal: Johns Hopkins plans staff layoffs after $800 million in grant cuts, and we haven't even gotten to the NIH cuts yet, right?
No, this is before the NIH gets settled. I was really surprised about this because I have Johns Hopkins as one of the top, if not the top, academic medical center research facility in the world, and I still think that. But they're losing $800 million in grants, and so they're going to have a lot of departments that lay off people or shut down completely. It's sad.
Yeah, and then the article goes on to say that they stand to lose another $200 million if cuts go through from the NIH side of things, right, with regard to the indirect costs. So we're talking about $1 billion. I mean, that is a massive, massive cut. That honestly, like, you got to ask, did Johns Hopkins like game theory and model this in August of last year?
They couldn't have.
That's a ridiculously fast turn to lose $1 billion.
I mean, the next paragraph says they spend $3 billion annually, so it's a third of their spend. They're losing. No institution can sustain that without massive changes.
No. So again, I mean, just like
they're all in Baltimore. It's going to be really hard on the city.
Oh man, look, yeah, that's going to be very, very tough. Mass General Brigham, second wave of layoffs begins, and these were happening even before all the Trump policies came into place. So yeah, you know, continuing to cite their $250 million 2-year budget gap that they're working to close.
Yeah.
You know, tough. It's not a good set of stories here for the health systems. CVS's new mini stores go all in on medicine and skip everything else. 12 new stores are expected to open throughout the U.S. Okay, this is
kind of interesting. I mean,
that's positive.
We have CVS going in this direction where they're adding drugstore-focused locations.
Well, drugs, yeah.
That's all they are. That's all they are. It's just to get your medication. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then Walgreens is in the opposite direction.
Yes.
They are the one right down the street here no longer has a pharmacy at all. It's just a convenience store.
Wow.
So I have no idea which is the smarter play, but they're going in opposite directions.
Yeah. I mean, I think both organizations are trying things.
Yeah, they're both need help.
Yeah, dealing with some much more fundamental, you know, business model issues and challenges. UCLA Health. Breathing new life, inhalable gene therapy for cystic fibrosis. Wow.
Yeah, so this is in the new treatments and like medication and stuff. So yeah, they have an inhalable treatment. I'm tempted to say cure, but treatment for cystic fibrosis. You inhale it, and it uses gene therapy, CRISPR technology to modify your genes and cures you of the disease, which is incredible. And there's a full paper and everything. I pulled it off the UCLA website because they're the actual inventors. But there's all this sad, hard things, but there's also just incredible innovation and technology.
Yeah, I mean, the science and technology is advancing into some ways that I would say are starting to qualify as like miraculous. I mean, you know, there's a story like a couple of weeks ago around the guy that, you know, that cured his blindness.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I mean, we're on the precipice of some unbelievable things from a science and technology perspective, and I think we're at the end of a geopolitical economical cycle, and it's just gonna be
the transition is going to be hard.
Yes,
we don't have the robots and the miracle cures here yet.
No,
but we have all the change. There's promise of that coming and exciting stories, but we still have to get through this next month.
Yeah, and this thrashing is it's just not going to be without hard things.
Yeah, but just to be able to inhale a medicine, and then it knows where to go and how to fix all your genes.
Yeah, the fact that it's inhalable and it's working at the genetics level. That is mind blowing. Johnson & Johnson MedTech robot gets FDA clearance for navigation technology. So this is in the bronchoscopy space. And it's a minimally invasive technique that allows surgeons to reach airways and suspicious lung nodules.
Yeah, so this is another science fiction that is real. There's been robotic surgery for a long time, and it's pretty useful, I think, but it's expanding now. So they're doing this lung minimally invasive technique that I think is, pretty hard to do by hand, and you can't even do it like you would like to do it. And of course they use NVIDIA's AI tool because that gets a lot of attention. But also it's really good. And so.
Yeah. I mean, look, to me, I just like seeing more integration of NVIDIA stuff into healthcare in real things used by, these, real deal serious companies. I just like seeing it all becoming more real. Yeah. Right. It's all becoming more real. The integration
J&J has distribution. I mean, they can put it everywhere.
That's exactly right. The integration of artificial intelligence and robotics, into healthcare. Look, we've had Da Vinci for a while, and but it's just been a while since since Da Vinci.
New things.
Yeah. So having these new things is really great. It's really great. All right, into pharma. Roche, Zealand Pharma strike a $5.3 billion weight loss therapy deal. So Roche already had a GLP-1 asset, right?
Yeah, but it is they're adding to that portfolio maybe because it is not competitive or whatever, but they bought things to put with it or to add to it or build a portfolio around. So all right. I don't exactly know the details of how these assets will make their GLP-1
competitive.
Better.
Because right now it's not competitive.
It's not that competitive, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think AbbVie's got the next sort of Gen 1 coming up, right? That's like different dosage, different
less often or something.
Less often, different mechanism. Is it a pill versus a shot?
I can't remember which one is which, but yeah, there is a pill.
It was a fundamentally different, method of taking the drug. Yeah. So, all right, Novo Nordisk shares fall after latest CagriSema. So this is a new drug, obesity drug trial results. So what's sort of the deal here?
It didn't do as well in the trials as they were hoping to. So I think the goal was 25% weight loss. It's in type 2 diabetes, and they didn't achieve that. They got 15. Some patients got 15%, some got 22%. So neither one hit the 25 level that Novo had forecast or put guidance around.
All right. And CagriSema is a combination of semaglutide, that's the Sema, and then they have an experimental drug, which is called cagrilintide. So that's kind of the new agent that they were hoping would somehow give a boost to semaglutide.
Yeah, and it works okay, but it doesn't work like they had promised.
Yeah. Ozempic's new frontier, the war on aging. Research suggests benefits beyond what popular diabetes and weight loss drugs prefer to treat. They're just going to try everything with this thing, aren't they?
They're just putting it everywhere.
Yeah. Now we're going to get Dave Asprey and Peter Attia and the longevity guys to start, looking at GLP-1s.
I mean, I think the the way I keep up with this is I think obesity is comorbid with aging. It's comorbid with diabetes, with kidney disease, with lots of things. And so if you solve that foundational thing, you don't age as fast. I mean, that's not probably that technically accurate, but I think that's the easiest way to think about it.
Yeah, but I don't know. This is where I feel like we get into, marketing and different categorizations, which triggers different revenue streams.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's definitely what pharma's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we got.
Aging opens up a new market.
It's just a new market.
But it's the same drug, and I think it's the same process that the body is using.
Yeah. Yeah. Guest opinion essay in the New York Times: a new scientific field is recasting who we are and how we got that way.
Yeah, go down to be able to talk about the name of the new field. But it sociogenomics. And so it is this, it's kind of like epigenomics, which is a field that I understand and I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
It's that combined with how your environment, like maybe the house you live in, the water you drink, how you get to work, what your work environment's like, triggers your epigenome to methylate different genes, express different genes.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this combination of how your social environment, the people you interact with, affects your genes. And then, of course, your genes affect your existence. So they're trying to unpack that. I think it's a really interesting space. It's in the opinion section, which is right. It's a new thing, and it is not proven yet. But I think it's worth following, and I think it does have a lot of applications to healthcare because a lot of these things manifest as health problems.
The author of the article is Dr. Dalton Conley, and has authored a book called The Social Genome: The New Science of Nature and Nurture. So for anyone who's interested in diving deeper beyond the link we're going to put in the show notes, that's the book to go check out.
That's right.
All right. Are we ready for AI? We are. Yeah. Okay. Axios. AI failed to detect critical health conditions in a study. So, duh. I mean, like they'll keep being these stories, but sure. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I think it was pretty surprising to me that how many errors and issues there were. So, they only recognized about a third of the actual patient's main disease. And so I think we're assuming the models are going to be accurate mostly with once in a while hallucinations. And I don't think that's not what the data is saying. So,
yeah, I mean, this is a particular study though. Mm-hmm. And so, I think, and then this is an article about that particular study. So we're several.
Yeah, that's right.
We're several degrees away from actually getting the truth of the matter here and how this, what we should take away from this in terms of implications for broad use of AI in the clinical setting. So I'd love to know about that. But yes, I mean, look, I think certainly whatever the model is, what it's trained on, all those things are different factors. Mm-hmm. And at this point, we have so many different frontier models that specialize in so many different things that, need to, be trained or need to have sort of, a ton of new data added to it. So its inference is going to be, reasonably accurate, that I just don't think even saying AI is particularly precise enough anymore. Right? Mm-hmm. Don't you agree with that? I want to know what model. What are you talking about? What was it? Gemini or was it some specific healthcare model that was designed specifically to do this and missed the mark?
Yeah, I think that's fair. To me, there's so much opportunity using a co-pilot kind of design where doctors and nurses and all kinds of clinicians, there's a lot of things they do that could be done much more efficiently with a tool that could sit with them and help them.
Yep.
And I think we have a lot of opportunity to make huge benefits for reducing costs, better patient outcomes, better quality of life for our clinicians without putting 100% of the decision-making in the AI.
Of course.
And so that's my only takeaway from this, is that we should be focusing on co-pilots in medicine.
Yes.
So that there's a human there who can do a lot more because of the AI, but it would not. Then if there's a mistake, it's you have a better chance of catching it.
Yeah, but to I think your original point about this article, it says here that some machine learning models, again, this is not precise, trained exclusively on existing patient data. Okay, but I need to know what model you were using, right? Didn't recognize about 66% of the injuries. So that error rate is actually not helpful, right? Even if it's in a co-pilot scenario, it's got to be far more accurate than that to actually be an aid, as opposed to the nurse practitioner constantly being like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Why am I using this stupid tool, right? Like,
that's what I mean.
That would send you down the path of the EMR, right?
Yes, and so I think diagnostic, like what is the patient's issue? What's the constellation of symptoms, and then what's the differential diagnosis? There's a lot of information the AI could gather, but I think that decision for a while should be the doctor's decision. There's plenty of assistance that AI tools can give without making that choice. And then it doesn't have to recognize. It sort of airs the symptoms and all these other things that are helpful but not definitive.
Yep. Agree. All right, moving on to Microsoft. So they have I don't think they were responding to the Axios article or the.
It couldn't have been. I mean, there's no way that Microsoft's PR could move that fast.
But the need to detect these issues is important, and so they put out something on their healthcare and life sciences blog, introducing clinical conflict detection safeguards in healthcare agent service. So, it's like they're working on it.
Yeah,
they're working on it.
Yeah, that's right. It's a big issue because human life's at stake, and Microsoft and all the AI companies are working on it. And I think it is largely going to be a co-pilot type of agent system.
Yep. Agree with that. All right. And then final story. So I learned about this from our good friend Nick Holland at HubSpot, who is, I think, probably the person who's closest to me, who is most on top of all this AI stuff. Yeah. He's leading AI at HubSpot. And he sent over this AI agent out of China called Manus AI. And it's a general AI agent capable of handling complex real-world tasks, to include creating video games. And so on X, there's a lot of talk about the video game creation stuff. But he actually sent me like this, he asked it to run a particular business task. And you can see like all the steps it's doing to execute this business task. And in the end, like produces a result. And this is what you would ask a person on your team to do. There's no question about it. Like goes out to all the different websites, pulls in information, organizes it, puts it into a Google sheet. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, right?
So the demo, so we have a demo we'll put in the show notes.
Yes.
It's too long on YouTube, but they create a competitor to DocuSign, which everyone listening probably has used DocuSign before. It's not that complicated, but there's a lot of pieces to it, and you have to make sure it's actually the person and all of the complexity to that, and it produces it. I mean, so the amount of competitive entry and the amount of sort of new product features, I think, is going to be significant.
Yeah, I mean, this is when I saw this, I was like, "This is the first time I've seen this."
Yeah,
right. It for me, it was a bit of a breakthrough. Right. It was kind of like the first time I had seen reasoning, the deep reasoning thing, except for the deep reasoning thing is just let me just think a little bit more.
Right.
This is not just let me think a little bit more. This is let me string together a bunch of different aspects of a complex task, and let me show you that I can think through all the different aspects of the complex task into the component parts. Now let me execute them all. Now let me execute all of those, and then here is your end result. And just the fact that there's like an audit log of all of that. It's just
I haven't figured out how to say this clearly, but there's like the intelligence layer, and you can swap out different models, but there's a large language model that is creating what I'm going to call intelligence. I think that's the easiest thing to call it. Then there's the reasoning that you're just talking about that was sort of new. It's moving quickly. That was new probably in December.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then DeepSeek came out with it from China.
Yeah. And now it's in everything.
And now it's in everything.
Yeah.
But that's sort of another layer.
Yeah,
I think it's a different.
It is another layer. Yes.
It's a different thing.
It's don't think quickly, think deeply.
Yeah.
Basically,
right.
like, you know, like if I send you a straight prompt, I'm like, think quickly.
Right. Yeah.
And deep reasoning is like, no. Take your time and actually like,
yeah,
check yourself. Like, you know,
and create some quick plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's capabilities to like take action.
Right. Which is more agent. That's where you get into the agent
where
world.
an agent, I think that's sort of the difference between an agent and not an agent.
That's an agent.
Is they can do something in the real world. They can post on X, or they can commit code and put it in a cloud server or whatever.
Yes.
And those three components, I think Manus is, they took all three and they made it really strong. And all three components work well together. I'm on the wait list. I'm not in it yet, but
dude, it's another great. Chinese.
But China is ahead of us in AI now. They are. Now we hopefully will catch up. We have a lot of talent, but the last month, China's been like every week coming out with new stuff. Okay,
so I feel like I have to give a friend of mine props on this. So I have a friend who I'm not sure what he's doing right now, but his wife is Chinese. His name is Jeremy Goldkorn, and he was writing for this online publication called SupChina, and it was basically trying to educate the West, in particular the United States, on China, but like not the like American Jingo, you know, propaganda China thing, like real.
This is engineering,
like real nuanced, like perspectives on China. And so, like, I remember one day he and I went for a walk, and he was like, "You're into all this tech stuff? Okay, you need to read this book, AI Superpowers: China, Silicon Valley, and the New World Order," by Kai-Fu Lee. This book, how old is this book, Marcus? Like, let's see here. This is not a new book. 2018.
Pre-pandemic.
2018. Yeah. I read the book during the pandemic because we met during the pandemic. So I listened to this audiobook in, like, let's call it 21.
Yeah.
Let's call it 21. All right. Dude, this book was right. Like, this book was right. Like the Suleiman book was right. You know what I mean? Like, just, and the point, here's the point that this book makes. Which is the same one that the Suleiman book makes. It makes the point that, like, Asia was the first continent to be culturally impacted by AI, because Go, like that, it was
meant more to them.
It was existential to them what had happened.
Yeah, well, we like watched it for a second, like cool. We always win.
Yeah, and for them, they were like, "This is." Like, for this to have happened, this is, and so they've been acting like this is a big deal for longer than we have. That's just the truth. And I just think they are ahead of us in a way we really have not internalized yet.
That's true. And then for 10 years, I've been not so worried about China as a global competitor because of their population issues.
Sure.
And I think AI makes that less important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But
so I don't know what that means.
Because the reason is because the default wisdom was growing population is critical to GDP growth.
Right. Yeah.
That's why.
You can't grow GDP, and then it's really hard to support your elderly population if you don't have enough young people.
And I still
both of those assumptions are not true anymore.
I still hear people saying that, and I'm like, are you aware of AI and robots? Like, do you understand that AI and robots change that first principle? Like, that's no longer a first principle.
Right. And no one very few people understand that.
Yeah. That's not a first principle anymore.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, anyway, please check out this YouTube video. Okay. It's in the show notes. Click on the link. Check out the YouTube video for Manus AI.
And we'll put the book in the show notes too.
Yeah. This Kai-Fu Lee book. I can't believe it. I haven't read it. I never tell you about this.
No.
I'm very sorry about that. It was a lot of stuff going on during COVID, so I feel very bad about that. But yeah, I mean, this guy, this guy lays it all out, man. He lays it all out.
Yeah.
2018.
We could have been so far ahead.
Well, listen, we wouldn't have been far ahead, but all right, man. Great show.
Yeah, that's good.
Talk soon.